Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here. Today is the 20th, Friday the 20th of March, 2020, and we're taking a look at the markets here. Let's get started. Let's open up the charts right here and take a look. Elon Musk says that there will be close to zero new virus cases by the end of April. He says children are essentially immune. Well, you know what? I think he's on top of this better than you think. Elon Musk, he says that this reality that we're living in, the chances of it being base reality are like 1 in 100,000 or one in a million sort of thing, And I think he's on top of that too. Uh, anyway, let's just say that this virus has what's called asymptomatic. It goes asymptomatic through an awful high percentage of the population. They did a study in Italy, and they tested 3,000 people, and they found that an awful high percentage of them were asymptomatic. And if you were to just do random tests, how you'd really get an idea how this virus is spreading is if you were to do random tests. Just take people that are healthy and test them. And I think, personally, from what I've studied about the asymptomatic transmission of this virus, it's very likely that by the time you see one person that actually has it, there's so many asymptomatic cases, it's not even funny. And this is how it seeds itself. And so it might have moved much faster than they could ever imagine. But in other words, it might be much further spread than they could ever imagine because of this special feature that it has. At any rate, what we're looking at is we're coming into it. It's getting worse, progressively worse, the virus is. We're coming into that period where it kind of explodes within the population of these countries that it's in. And the United States is heading toward their Italy moment. Now, watching Italy very carefully, Italy is what I call a tell. Let's move up here and take a look at this, and to see what's really coming in the future, we got to take a look at Italy. It says Italy declares martial law. It uses the army to enforce its lockdown. Too many citizens are defying the government, and we're going to see this in other countries. As the virus progresses in these other countries, we're going to see this spread. Martial law. Martial law. That's what they're declaring, and to fight the virus. And so we're going to see that spread. Let's take a look at what's happening with gold and silver. Gold and silver's going nowhere today. Gold's up $25, but why I say it's going nowhere, if you look at its range, it's right in the middle of its range. And so it's just bouncing around in this range. Bouncing around following the lines it's followed the last 2 days. If we take a look at silver today, $12.64. It's up 54 cents, but it's on the high side of its range. Now, if you look at its range, different than gold, you see the last couple days' movement in silver. You see it's up above, a little bit above its range it's been the last couple days. Where if we go back to gold here, and silver's at $12.64, if we go back to gold, we can see that it's more in the middle of its range. But gold and silver are actually doing pretty good through this crisis. What really caused the downfall in gold and silver and caused the prices to fall was in the markets, when the markets are really falling like that, there's no bid. And the markets fall like 3,000 points in one day, which is what we've seen. There's no bid, and these guys, there's margin calls going out and stuff, and they have to cover their losses and everything, and so they're selling their SLV and GLD because there's a solid bid under that. So they've been selling it, and that's what's caused the fall and decline in price in gold and silver. Is the paper contracts, the SLV and GLD, has been causing this not not the amount of silver out there, not the amount of gold out there, which is in very short supply, but there's a wide supply of the paper, and they've been just trading in paper and knocking the price down to cover their losses in the market. Let's take a look now at cryptocurrency. You know, cryptocurrency, it has really done well through this. And now it's up. We're looking at a Bitcoin price of 65.43 today, up 12%. We're looking at all the coins starting to move back up in price a little bit again. Really, they've done awfully well. For a lot of people criticize cryptocurrency and say that, oh, it's going to go to zero and everything. Well, if cryptocurrency can go through this and maintain its price, that's absolutely amazing. You know, how well it's actually done through this crisis. Let's take a look at the Dow today and see what it's doing. It's up a little bit. Now, there's a new drug out there. It's given hope that they're testing. It's used in malaria treatments, for what I understand, you know. And this new drug shows a lot of potential. Let's just put it that way. And that could be part of what's affecting the markets, is the knowledge that this new drug's out there. It's not a cure, but it's a treatment. And it's showing a lot of potential as being a treatment. And from what I gather, I've read an article last night that said that the FDA has approved it for testing, this new drug. So it could be coming very quickly as a way of treating this disease, treating the worst case scenarios where people have really bad lung congestion and stuff like that. So that's a good thing, you know. We got another good thing happening here. Two actually very good pieces of news. China, the factory production's starting back up again in China. Now think about all the things like your medications, which come from China, you know. And this means that we might not run out of medications because China's starting its factories back up again. The smog emissions are starting to go into the air again. The pollution is starting to come off of China again, which means that China's going back into working again because they've routed the virus. Let's take a look now at crude oil. Crude oil is really suffering big, and the reason why is because people aren't driving. People are staying home, and they're not consuming fuel when they stay at home, and so you got this happening at the same time. You know, crude oil prices are really you're going to see this at the gas pumps probably over the next 2 weeks or so. You're going to actually see this reflected in drops in price at the pump. You know, you're going to see it down every day. You know, the gas price is going down a little bit every day, cheaper and cheaper, and that's a good thing too. For for us drivers out there and stuff, that we got to put gas in our car, and it's going to be cheaper to put gas in your car right now. You know, and I tell you guys, I can't tell you guys how much cheaper it's going to be to fly someplace once this virus starts to disappear. These companies, you know, are going to put tickets on sale for airplanes and everything, and it's going to be probably I don't know. I'm just going to throw it off the top of my head. Maybe the tickets will be half price from what they were before this crisis came along, because they're going to need to get those planes back full again once this crisis ends. This crisis is going to come to an end. I don't altogether agree with Elon Musk that it's going to end in a month, but I could see it starting to come to an end within the next 90 days, because I think this virus is spreading through the population much quicker, and I think we're going to have herd immunity much quicker than people think, you know, with this virus, and probably within the next 90 days or so. I'm thinking that the world will have herd immunity, because this thing's just going to go through until it gets 60, 70, 80% of the population with herd immunity, and then I think it's gonna start to make its way into disappearing, because at that point it loses its own train of transmission. It breaks its own train of transmission because most of the people it comes across have already had it already. And so then, say a person has it, and he comes in contact with 10 other people, and 9 of those 10 other people got herd immunity, then the virus is down to a R naught of 1, because it can only find one person to transmit to. And then when it transmits to that next person, that one person, he comes in contact with 10 people, and all 10 of them got herd immunity, and then the virus goes, poof, gone. Because there's nobody to transmit to. And if it can't transmit within about 2 weeks after that person gets over, or 3 weeks when the person gets over the virus that has it, if he can't transmit it to anybody, can't find anybody who doesn't have herd immunity, then where's the virus going to survive? How's the virus going to survive? Because once he gets over it, then and starts to get better, if he hasn't transmitted it to anybody else, then the virus don't have any place to go. It's cornered. It can't find a victim. And so it just disappears spontaneously at that point because everybody's got herd immunity. And that's what really stops this virus, is herd immunity. And I think we're heading in that direction at 90 miles an hour. Let's take a look now at U.S. dollar index, 101.92 on the U.S. dollar index. The dollar's riding high and riding strong, you know. Considering the amount of stimulus that they're pumping into the economy, you know, it's what they're really missing, and what I want to emphasize on my channel, and I've been emphasizing this a lot, is they can print dollars to infinity. These other assets like gold and silver, you can't print that to infinity. You cannot print cryptocurrency to infinity. And so they've been buying in heavy to the dollar, you know, and it could be a huge mistake that they're making because they're missing that big point, you know. Anyway, well, you know, the Federal Reserve and these central banks, they don't tolerate deflation very well. We've been having a bit of deflation. They didn't tolerate it very well back in 2008 when we had a little bit of deflation. Look at what they did, right? The creation of money. They're already in the creation of money now. They're fighting this deflation, and they might even fight it harder in the upcoming months. And the only reason you want to be in the dollar is deflation, you know? And if you think they won't do helicopter money, they're doing it. Right now, they're giving everybody in America $1,000 and $1,000 more. That's helicopter money. Well, it's being absorbed, the helicopter money right now, because of what's happening in the American economy with people losing their jobs and everything else. But what about when this crisis starts to end? You know, all these programs that they've done to prop up the markets and everything. You know, with the overnight repo markets and their quantitative easing measures and all this stuff, and their money that they're pumping into the economy. Once the markets get used to that, you can't pull it away. So when the crisis ends, if they try to start pulling all this away from the markets are going to collapse. So then they can't pull it away, and they'll have to keep up creating all this new money. What this virus has done is it's accelerated the pressures that's going to come on the economy for hyperinflation, ultimately. This has accelerated that process. We might have had a few years left, you know, before we start to move faster toward the hyperinflation. This has just pushed us and advanced us into that much faster. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. We'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.